Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are discussing question number 2 of paper 1, and that question is use of language tasks, and in that question carries 9 marks. We have discussed 2 questions as of now. First question is read this extract and tell that what is the writer trying to suggest, what has happened till this point in the story. And second question was, we discussed this in the previous video, and second question was that read this sentence and tell that why the writer is using certain words and what kind of effect the writer is trying to give us. Now this is third question. Usually this is question 2b, it can be 2c also in your use of language task. So usually this question that we are going to talk about, that question deals with the use of words. Why? And that has some kind of grammatical as well as kind of a connection that shows why certain vocabulary has been used instead of why the writer is giving preference to one word over another word. So look at this question. Explain why the writer uses the word stronger rather than strong in the expression a stronger branch. So all these questions that we see, these questions, they are dealing with different words, their one form or the other form, or mostly two same kinds of words. Sometimes their meaning is also same, but writer chooses to use one word instead of the other. So why the writer is using word stronger rather than strong? Answer is, it is still not strong, only stronger than the other one or the previous one, so could break. So writer is using the word stronger here. He's trying to give the impression that this is the just stronger. Strong, the previous one was strong. These are comparative adjectives. There is no need to write comparative adjective word there in your answer. So these are comparative adjectives. Writer is using the word comparative degree or second word, that is stronger, just to show that it is only stronger than the previous branch. It is not the strongest of all. That's why if the branch that he was holding earlier, if that can break, that means this branch can also break. That is also weaker branch, but comparatively as compared to the previous one, it is better. So that's why he's saying it is still not strong enough, or it is still not strong, only stronger than the other one, so could break. So you will in these questions you are going to pay attention to the word, that what kind of meaning one specific word is giving. Explain why the writer uses the word creature rather than boy in expression a creature incapable of reason. Line number 48. So here the writer has used a creature incapable of reason. Why the writer didn't say that he was a boy incapable of reason? So why is he using the word creature here rather than boy? So we will think about it, that when we use the word creature, where we use the word animal, where we use the word human or boy. So if we choose to use word creature for someone, basically what kind of message we are going to convey, or what kind of message the writer is conveying to us by using the word creature here. That Ahmed did not see him as a human or value him enough. He just thought of the writer as a dumb animal that had no comparison with a human, or that has no comparison with a boy or human. So here writer, that is the complete explanation, because that's why the writer is calling him creature. He thinks that he is less than a human. He is not a human at all. He is less than that because he has no faculties of mind. He cannot think properly, he cannot read or write, or he cannot understand things properly. So he is not less than an animal, he is just an animal. That's why he is using a word creature that we usually use for animals, insects, birds, all these things. That's why he is using this word. So all your attention, all your focus is going to be on these two words. One is boy, one is creature. You'll ask yourself that if I write a word, a boy incapable of reason, how would I feel, or how would the reader feel? And if I use the word creature, so what is the difference there? You are going to understand it yourself, and after that you are going to convey the message to the write to the but after that you are going to convey the message to the reader, to the examiner, that the writer, the answer that you are going to write there. So that is the examiner comment here. The candidate correctly explains the effect of the word creature rather than boy, recognizing that it suggests the writer is not regarded as human, is seen as an animal, and is not valued. Each of these three ideas are correct. Only one answer is required for 1 mark. So the writer is saying, the examiner is saying that here he has seen that Ahmed did not see him as human. That's why he wrote word creature there instead of, even if he would have written this much, the answer was correct. There's no need to do that longer explanation of that. Only that Ahmed did not see him as a human, that answer is correct. Or value him enough, he just thought the writer was a dumb animal, that answer is also correct. He had no comparison with a human. So the writer, the candidate has written 3 complete answers in these 2 lines. Even if he wrote just one answer, just one line, just one sentence, that would have been enough. But still, the candidate got his marks because he conveyed the message completely. Next question now. Explain why the writer uses the word paused rather than stopped in the phrase "we paused in the middle of the rush of bodies." Again, there are 2 words. You are going to compare those 2 words with each other. In this case, I think this question is quite easy for you all, because when you are recording a video, when you are listening to something on radio, when you are watching TV, when you are any such thing that is related to this media thing, when you are doing that, so when you pause something, basically you are likely to you are going to continue after some time. You will pause and then you resume. You are going to restart. You are going to start it from there, the place where you left. So you stop it for a moment, then you again start that. And when you stop something, basically you end it. That is a complete end. Stop is a complete end, whereas pause is a kind of a stop for just for the time being. You pause, then you again start. You pause and then you again play it. So that's the difference that while comparing these 2 words you should keep in your mind. And look at the mark scheme. Explain why the writer uses the word pause rather than stop in the phrase "we paused in the middle of the rush of the bodies." So possible answers are: they stopped very briefly, momentarily, didn't stop for long, completely, they carried on. So basically they stopped for a moment, or they didn't stop completely, they had to continue after that. That's why the writer has used the word paused rather than the word stopped. Next one is, that is examiner comment about this question. Most successful responses gained the mark for a variation of the ideas: the swim continuing after, or them not stopping for long. In some responses there was a misunderstanding about the suddenness of the stop and what was actually happening at this point, as the swimmers had not actually started swimming at this point in the narrative. So there were some misconceptions while attempting these questions by the candidates, but overall that was a question where you had to understand the difference between pause and stop. Look at the next question. Explain why the writer uses the word each rather than both in the expression "but we each have to decide whether we think these animals are worth it." So why the writer has used the word each, not both? Like the writer could have written, but we both we both had to decide whether we think these animals are worth it. But the writer said, but we each have to. So why the writer has written each? That is also an easier question, because both of them separately had to take their decision. They were not going to decide it together. They were going to decide it as a human being, as their own self. Now look at this. Each, Laura, Myla will have an opinion, viewpoint. Laura can make up her mind, choose. It's not a joint decision. It is an individual decision. Myla is not forcing Laura. It is voluntary. It is voluntary. They may think differently. So that's why the writer chose the word each instead of both, and that it's the complete answer. Then look at this. That is examiner's uh, response to the answer. The question is, yes. Several responses recognize the implication of each to suggest that the decision made about working with dangerous animals had to be independent or personal. And answers such as Laura had to decide alone, they may think differently, as she has her own point of view, were credit worthy. Candidates who effectively repeat the question are not demonstrating understanding of language use, and so they each had to make a decision, for example, could not score. So here the examiner is trying to tell us that the students who just wrote, who took some part of the question and then wrote their answer from taking some chunk from the question, they didn't get marks. Now it is here, some students, they wrote this line, they each had to make a decision. Now it is already written in the question. Okay, you are right, they each had to take the decision, but that is the same thing is written in the question, that we each have to decide. The same thing, if you are repeating the word each in your answer, that means you are repeating the word of the text. See, what we each have to decide. They each had to make a decision. So it's the same thing. If you just write, you repeat the same thing here, that means you are not going to get marks for that, because it is already written in the question. So instead of that, what are the answers? Laura had to decide alone. They may think differently. She has her own viewpoint. And this kind of answers, they were correct answers. And this kind of answer, that they each had to make a decision, they didn't get marks because the same thing is written in question. So when you are writing answer, you have to come up with explanation, not just copying things from the text. That's all for this video. We have discussed the question here. So now takeaway of this video is that you need to keep two things in your mind, that this question is basically a comparison between two words. You have to compare two words there. The words can be, the use can be different grammatically, or it can be different according to the register, according to the vocabulary. So you have to think that any kind of word that has been used there, or two words that the writer has used there, you have to compare them. You can just replace those words in the question and ask yourself that if writer had used this word here, so how would it have been different? So you will compare both the words, and then after that you will write your answer. And secondly, do not repeat the statement or repeat the phrase given in the question. You won't get marks for it. That's all for now. Allah Hafiz.